Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 102. In this episode, you're going to hear from my friend, Dan Warheide. And Dan is a transformation coach and a marketing enthusiast who is passionate about helping others break the barriers that are holding them back from achieving more in their business and in their lives. So Dan and we talk about negative thoughts, not being boxed in, and what to do if you're tired of your day job. Stay tuned because I know that you're going to love this episode. But first, just a couple of things. If you like this episode, I would be so grateful if you headed on over to iTunes and left a 5-star rating and review saying what you liked about the episode. That way, other badasses just like you can find the show too. And if that's not your thing, I would be grateful if you just forwarded the episode to a friend who you know could appreciate or get value from this. Of course, if you do leave a review, send a screenshot or take a screenshot and put it on your Instagram stories and tag me at Ordinary to Badass. Because I want to be able to say thank you. All right, with that, let's get to the episode. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I'm glad you're here. Today's guest is Dan Warheide. Dan, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Marie. I'm excited for our conversation.
So before we go any further, I've got to know, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
I'm going to have to go with badass.
So why do you feel badass, or what's something that's made you feel badass that you've done?
Well, yeah, the work that I'm doing, the fact that I get to wake up every day and I get to have conversations and hear from people how I'm making an impact in their lives, I think that leads me to, I'm in a badass place, and it's a good feeling.
So have you always felt that way?
No, I sure have not.
Was there anything like any turning point for you?
There's a lot of them, and we can talk about as much or as little as you want to.
Yeah, let's hit one.
All right. So I didn't feel so badass when I was leaving the military. I spent a career in the Army, in the intelligence community. I did a lot of great stuff, a lot of fun stuff, and I know I helped a lot of people along the way. But leaving that space, into uncertainty, I knew I didn't want to go into government work. There's a lot of people that come from my career field and they go straight into another job doing what they were doing, whether it's for the government or as a contractor. And most of them are making a lot of money. And I chose before that, I knew it wasn't for me. I just felt like I needed to continue to figure out where I belonged, what I was going to do, and how I was going to make my own way is really what I was looking for. And I tried a lot of things that didn't work so well, had some mindset challenges I had to overcome. And, those struggles through the transition and not having enough money each month to know if I was going to make ends meet the next month and provide for my daughter, all of the things. Yeah, I don't even know that I felt ordinary. I think I felt through those transitions less than. And that's one of the mindset challenges that I had to work with, is I have to get out of my way for, feeling less than, understand that I am enough, and figure out what that looked like and how I could bring more of that to the table.
So when's the first time that you remember feeling like, okay, like I got this, I feel a little badass?
I'm going to go with just prior to the pandemic that we're still talking about today. Just prior to that, I had a sit down with myself, so to speak. I did some introspective work as part of something else I was doing, and going through the material. So I lead, or I'm certified to lead 48 Days to the Work and Life You Love seminars. And going through that material, because I wanted to be familiar with it, I thought it was the only right to actually work through the material myself and sit down and take inventory of all the things and figure out more about who I am, what the work is that I might need to consider doing, because whatever I was doing just didn't feel like it was working the way it should have. And through that, one of the things that I found was my mindset around money and the reasons I was doing some of the things I was doing were really about how can I make more money in a shorter period of time, because I was still struggling. And I realized at that time that I really needed to focus on how I could help more people and how I could serve them well. And if I could figure out how to bring those pieces to the forefront, then the money wouldn't be the forefront, and it would change the approach. And that actually significantly impacted everything. Almost as quickly as I made that choice, I started seeing an improvement in the work I was doing. I started seeing improvement in the way I felt about it. And I definitely started to see an improvement in my income. And last year, with everything going on, was I'm going to say quite a successful year for me. So that point, sometime in February, March of last year was a turning point.
Yeah. And I mean, that's not to be understated. Going through a pandemic and kicking butt and feeling good, and then it sounds like increased revenue. That's awesome. Not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah. And can I share something else about that? Just
Yeah.
observation and conversations that I've had with other people who experienced some level of success through the past year. One of the things that stands out to me is their approach to the entire scenario. So they've approached their life, their business, their work, or even the things that they're doing to try and bring their communities together with a growth mentality or a growth mindset over, and I want to be careful about using the word victim, but there's a difference in mindset. And that's really what I'm getting at here, is those people who have, I won't say complained necessarily, but those people who have sat back and wondered what's next for them, instead of looking at how can I use this as an opportunity, or how can I grow as a result, were the ones that did not experience as much success.
Yes, so powerful. And I think that can be applied in business and just in life. Like you can, shut down completely and just have it be the worst year ever, the worst time of your life, or you can, like you said, grow and make changes from it. So I love that. So
absolutely.
There's so much I want to unpack in what you've already told me, but first, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, wow. Yes. So my day job, so to speak, is, my primary source of income at the moment. I spend my time helping marketing agencies with project management and the technical aspects of executing well-designed marketing campaigns. They're amazing creators, and they're doing amazing things. I work with the StoryBrand Guide community exclusively. And so if anybody's familiar with StoryBrand, that community of guides, first of all, they're just a wonderful group of people, but those are my primary clients. And last year, I think you are quite aware of this already, but I had a conversation with our friend Ray Edwards, and we talked about some of the conversations I was having, and that's led me back into this coaching space where I'm helping people with transformation and helping them get out of their own way, start moving into, work and life they love. Not to steal from Dan Miller directly, but that's essentially what I'm doing. Everybody has different feelings about why they want to work with somebody. And so I'm fortunate to have people that want to work with me in that space, and having learned from some excellent leaders, working on building that aspect of my business. But beyond work, I'm a father of 2 daughters. I raised 5 girls all in total, because we had custody of our 3 nieces. I'm divorced, And currently I'm residing in Virginia Beach area and headed to Cocoa Beach area in the very near future. Again, I had a career in the military, was raised by a single mother, have two younger brothers, and I love the outdoors, love the beach, anything near the water, and I'm still trying to learn how to surf.
Nice. That's something that I have never attempted, but I feel like I would fall right off.
That's what happens. That's where I'm at. I try.
Probably for a good while. That's
yeah.
what happened.
It's odd because I grew up on the water, and I was water skiing, most of my earlier years. And that's something, by the way, if you haven't water skied after many years and you get back out and do that, it's really hard. But yeah, and so surfing has just always been around us. I grew up here in the Virginia Beach area, came back here after the military, and it's just something I've always watched, observed, and was like, you know what, one day I'm going to do that. And so I've been trying.
Nice. Awesome. I love that. So you talked about getting out of the military a little bit and then trying to find yourself and figure out what was next. How did you go about that process of figuring out what was next for you?
Wow. Yeah. So I had to, again, I go back to the work I was doing with regards to the seminar material. But it really came down to taking inventory of the skill sets that I bring to the table. And so that really looks like looking at the different experiences and the work that I had done. And I've got an eclectic past prior to the military with regards to work. And so it looked a lot like just taking inventory of those different scenarios. Sometimes we look at day-to-day tasks that we perform at a job and we think, okay, well, that's shipping and receiving. But there's really a lot more that goes into just the shipping and just the receiving pieces of shipping and receiving. There's records processing and inventory management and, data entry even, and lots of other things. So I sat down and I took inventory of what those different scenarios, what skills helped to build those job skills, and broke them down, to a more refined level, I guess. And that was part of it. And then I started looking at what brings me joy when I'm doing it. And a couple things to me stood out. So I really love problem solving. And I really enjoy having conversations with people who feel stuck and are just trying to figure out what next steps can I take to even just start moving in a direction that's different. There's a lot of things that come with that. There's fear, there's uncertainty, there's, financial security, all the things. But when you start looking at your skills and abilities and even formal and informal education components that you bring to the table, and then analyzing that for what stands out as something that makes me smile when I talk about it or when I'm doing it, or that I can spend my time doing without question. Like I can't charge an hourly rate to my StoryBrand clients, because part of that for me is I get to research problems, find solutions to, certain ways of doing things. And that sometimes will keep me up until 2 a.m. And if I was charging by the hour for those types of things, it's their work, but I enjoy doing that aspect of it. So when you find something like that lights you up, you can start looking at how you can shape that into where you're trying to go in the future. I think it's important, Marie, if you don't mind me talking too much.
No, go for it.
I think it's important to say that we often look at where we're at and we think about what we've done and we box ourselves in. We think that there's, really only two options. Either I learn how or figure out how to do something completely unknown, or I just keep doing this and hope for a better future. And if you've got a feeling like I'm hoping for a better future, you're probably in the wrong place, is what I would say. And we need to sit down and look at, what else do you bring to the table? How can that be shaped into something completely different? A third, fourth, fifth, or even sixth option that we can bring to the table, that because we are facing that challenge, that lack of fulfillment, it's hard for us to get out of our own way and just see what those other options might be. And for that reason, it's good to talk to somebody like you or me, or, other people who've had those experiences, and be able to just get some insights on how you could look at this differently. How do we take what skills, education you bring to the table, and what other options might exist that someone else might be aware of and you just haven't considered?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask, is how do we get out of our own way? So one of those things would be find a coach. Is there anything else you can think of how people can get out of their own way?
Yeah. And it starts with a quote that I've sort of adapted from an existing quote. I think you're probably familiar with, everything we could ever want is on the other side of fear. I disagree, because that implies a couple things. I mean, I think that's part of it, but I think the idea or the concept that then I have to figure out how to overcome my fear is a really big thing to think about. And for people who are stuck or trying to figure out just how to identify action steps and take steps in the direction that's slightly different or uncomfortable, I don't think you have to worry about overcoming fear. I think you need to worry about, how can I start addressing the fear? Overcome might come later, but we want to work with it, through it, against it, whatever that looks like. So my quote is actually, everything we could ever want is on the other side of action.
Nice.
Break it down into simple steps. What's one thing that I can do in the next 24 hours that's going to just help me start moving? Before, I'm not going to call you out too much, but before we had this recording, we were talking about simple things like, mindset challenges and maybe wanting to go out and take a walk. And so I just like to think about what's the first thing I need to do to get myself moving and just commit to going to that walk, right? Maybe it is simple, like I'm going to set my clothes out at the foot of my bed first thing so that first thing in the morning, that's what I walk into. That's going to help remind me that I need to be doing something like that. It's just an example, but identifying simple action steps, not worrying about what are all the possibilities or all the things, and then what are all the potential mistakes that I'm going to face or obstacles that are going to be in my way. Just what's the first one or two steps, and then which one can I do, and set a deadline for the next 24 hours.
Yes, I love that, because it's so simple. And and a lot of times it's just like the small, consistent steps that we take, not some gigantic action. It's just the small things that we do day in and day out. So I love that. And to Beers, what Dan is talking about is he was doing a master class, and I caught the replay, and he was talking about people getting in their heads about mindset. And I had given up on my walk for the day, and then I heard that and I hit pause and went out for my walk. So you motivated me, Dan.
Thanks so much. But and that's just that simple words that you just shared, that I motivated you. I mentioned earlier that this is what I get to do every day, and I still wake up in the morning, and sometimes I have to pinch myself and go, is this really what I get to do every day? To hear things like that, continues to motivate and inspire me to simply want to do better.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that we don't realize often either the stuff that we do, how it can impact those around us. You might not even know that you're motivating somebody else, but then it's something that you say that resonates, and then it puts other people into action, which is cool.
Yes, absolutely. Words are super important too. I have a friend of mine, his name is Pete Evick, and he wrote a book called The Moments That Make Us. And that's one of the stories he shares in there is about words that someone's parent used that child then shared with him while they were in middle school age, that shaped how he saw himself, from that day forward, and could have potentially had a tremendous negative impact throughout the rest of his life. And words are super important. And just remembering that is one way we can be kinder to other people.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that we often don't reflect on stuff that we heard as a child or how we interpreted what was said to us. Something might have been meant completely different than we took it, but we don't really reflect on it and then say, okay, is this true? Or is it really applicable now? Sometimes we just let it shape our identity for life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so good.
So earlier you were talking about how easy it is for us to get boxed in. Can you talk a little bit about that and how we prevent ourselves from getting boxed in?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm not a fan of, I'm not a huge fan of formal education, first of all. I think that's a great place to start when we talk about being boxed in or boxing ourselves in. Society tells us, generally speaking, that in order to be successful and to become a responsible member of society, you have to grow up, put your dreams aside, go to school, get a good job, get the house, the white picket fence, and 2.5 kids. And generally speaking, that's the mentality we've adopted as a society, and that's what we see carrying out in work that we see people doing every day. And I can't help but think of this. I don't know what the words are right this second, and I just said words are important, but it's like zombie land, right? People just going to work, they're doing the thing, they're coming home, and they sit down, they have a beer, they have dinner, whatever it is they're doing, and then they get up and do it all again tomorrow. And it becomes this monotonous thing, but they feel like that's what they're supposed to do because that's what they were taught they were supposed to do. So that's one aspect of it. And the other one is that when you get into that place and you recognize by the way, for some people, that's people need or want, desire that level of structure in their life. And there's nothing wrong with that unless you feel like you're lacking something. And then working to try and understand what it is you think you're lacking and trying to figure out ways to bring more fulfillment in those aspects of your life is what we're really talking about. But for me and the people I talk to, it's the work. It was this, I feel dead inside. They've told me that, right? They've told the communities I'm in, they've said these things. And it's like, I do it, I make great money, I've had a successful career, but I just feel dead inside. And now it's time for me to explore what else is out there. And so that security is another component of it. We get to that space where we're making good money, we've had some level of success, and until something significantly changes that impacts our ability to do that, we look at it with this false sense of security. And I say false, going back to unless something happens, and something could happen. Your job might not exist tomorrow, then what?
Right.
So there is a sense of security associated with it, but it's unrealistic to believe that it's really secure, at least in my perspective. And so that has people boxed in. And the way we observe that, the way we look at it through a single lens is, this is my life, this is what I'm supposed to do, I don't know how to get out of it. And so then they start feeling trapped or boxed in.
Yeah, and I don't even think that has to be just for entrepreneurship. Like, it can just be you're in a job that you hate, that you're not meant to be doing, and you just stick with it for the security of the paycheck. But there's really something else that you're called to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And just trying to move into work that is more fulfilling can change everything about your life. And that's what I really like about Dan Miller's work, by the way. The 48 Days to the Work and Life You Love is a process to identify and move into or create work that you love, which then translates into a better environment for your life, because your relationships improve, your income typically improves, all the things, simply because you feel better about the things that you're doing. And income isn't everything. I talked about that a minute ago when I changed my mindset and my approach from pursuing things that were going to potentially bring profit sooner to how can I just serve people well? The income also improved.
Right.
And it's, so that's whether you're looking for, something more fulfilling in work and that's another job or a completely different career field, or you're looking to create something. Here's what I have found, and I'll just be completely honest. We're looking at the seminar materials and working through those pieces myself. I was really excited to stumble into some of the thoughts that I had, and it's geared towards helping people shift careers. But there's a component in there that really looks at and examines what it takes and what could it look like as another possibility if I were to able to apply these skills on my own as an entrepreneur. And when you start thinking about all the possibilities associated with that, it's, for me, also extremely exciting.
So is there, if somebody is thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, but they're so far away from that and really know nothing about that, what do you suggest? Do you suggest they just leave their job and jump right into it? Or is there kind of a happy medium there?
Yeah, so I would never suggest just leaving and jumping right in. I think you want to set yourself up with action steps that are going to move you in that direction. If you don't have any idea where you're going with that, then it's looking at exploring other communities where people are doing that together. So I hate to keep bringing it up on your show, but 48 Days is another community of people that are looking at doing just that or have done just that. It's a great place to spend time and learn from other people. Is now okay for me to bring up the thing I'm working on?
Yes, but first, what do you specifically help people with?
Oh, what do I help people with? I help people figure out, well, I listen, and I listen to what they tell me and listen to the questions that they're asking themselves to get out of their own way, identify what their best next action steps could be, and then a level of accountability beyond that, depending on what the goals are that we work together to define. So I work with them on their situations to figure out what might be the next things that they could be working on, whether it's into a new career, and then we talk through the process of what that looks like, or considering starting a business, and we talk through the process and work on identifying resources and the action steps that are going to be needed, start setting goals based around that information, and then again a level of accountability depending on where they're trying to go, how soon, and what their level of commitment is to those things. But I know it sounds ambiguous, but it really has a lot to do with the individuals and where they want to go. My preference is for working with entrepreneurs or people that want to explore entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And how, because that's, I think, just this big mind space of ambiguity.
Yes. And oh, to be yours, Dan is over here being humble, talking about Dan Miller, but really he is awesome and provides great value and great service. And I know him personally and trust him. So I would go with Dan Warheide over Dan Miller. Both are great services. I'm just saying you're underselling yourself because what you have to offer is amazing.
Thank you so much.
So can you talk a little bit about what you have coming up?
Absolutely. So I have lots of things. I'm always trying new stuff because it's fun and it leads me to problem solving. But in particular, I'm launching we're in a pre-launch, I guess, so to speak, of a mastermind sort of group accountability program. Well, we'll be meeting with people twice a month to provide, some guidance, instruction, and lessons learned from other people who've gone through what they might be looking to go through, as well as a session for accountability and probably some other pretty cool stuff I'm trying to work out. I structured it to be affordable for the people who are wanting to explore something but aren't in a place necessarily where they can just take that leap and jump into full-time entrepreneurship. This is designed more to support them in getting started, and then beyond the start, what resources and action steps and accountability needs to happen beyond that. So we've just created this group. We're actually kicking it off in April. And right now I'm offering that at $79 a month through the 1st of June for all of our founding members, so to speak. And that's, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
I was just going to say, and that's where we're providing the guidance needed to help identify, walk through, creating action plans, setting goals, and moving into that next action step.
So you and I have been in a similar type thing, a similar type program. And for me, having motivation with one person, like somebody who might be a mentor, but then also having a bunch of people going through it is so powerful. And oftentimes they can see stuff for me that I could not see for myself.
Yeah.
What has been a transformation for you? And I just kind of want this so that O2Bers could see, what's possible for them as well.
When you say, you mean with regards to the program that
Like,
we're in together?
Yes, because there's similarities, but I think
Yeah.
that there's so much transformation possible for people joining a program like that.
I think, yeah. So the community aspect in anything, I think relationships, by the way, are the currency of our future. And I say that wholeheartedly because every relationship that I have worked on and built and nurtured has proven more than its weight in gold, in return to me, just because I chose to invest in the people I surround myself with and without asking for anything in return. And those relationships have just transformed, inspired, and helped me build a better mindset for myself and realize more of the worth that I am able to bring to people. So the community aspect is probably one of the biggest pieces. Yes, it's great to sit down and listen to the experience of someone who's been there, done that, and has a lot of skills to share with people. But I also, like you, have gotten a ton of value from the others who are doing the same things or similar things. I don't think one of us in the group is really doing the exact same things there.
No.
In the mastermind that we're in, but we all have value to contribute to each other. And that, because of those unique experiences and educations and backgrounds that we all bring to the table, has been, I think, the most valuable component.
And for the O2Ber who isn't aware of what a mastermind is, can you explain that?
Well, to me, in its simplest form, a mastermind is a group of people who are going through similar things, working together to help solve problems, working together to identify and hold people accountable to the things that they're working on, while also getting some expert guidance from others.
Yeah. And I think so let me rewind here. Several years ago, I didn't know what a mastermind was. I didn't know what it would do for me, nor did I know anybody around me that was doing anything like that. Mm-hmm. But I would urge people listening, step out of the box, kind of like Dan was talking earlier. You don't have to do the things that everybody around you is doing. If you want to, take it to the next level, you have to do something different than what you've always been doing.
Absolutely. Everything you could ever want is on the other side of action. And just taking, well, I'm gonna use Dan Miller again, but he had a thing. He tells this thing. I don't know where it came from, but it's 5 frogs were sitting on a log, and 3 of them decided to jump off. How many frogs were still sitting on the log? Most people would probably answer 2. And the truth is that all 5 are still sitting on the log because they've only decided, they haven't taken action. And I love like
it. Action is huge. And I'm such a fan of action. That's a big thing for Ordinary to Badass, is really taking action, even if they're teeny tiny actionable steps. So one thing I wanted to talk about is mindset, because I think mindset is so huge and so important. And I don't care if it's just in your daily life or if it's for entrepreneurship. Do you have any tips that we can use to improve our mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's human nature to, feed ourselves with these negative thoughts about certain things that we're working on doing. When we're faced with the task at hand, you have a career in law enforcement. It's okay, I say that here, right?
Yep.
I don't.
Yep.
Oh, your
Good
people know that, right?
They know that. They know that.
Say, I know that, but you're faced probably at times with a stressful or ambiguous task that you had to walk into with courage. And so you've probably at some point experienced these negative thoughts. I'm not going to be able to complete this. Would y'all do like physical assessments annually, or anything like that in law
No,
enforcement?
we do like defensive tactics and that kind of thing regular, like annually, but not any physical
Not
assessment.
okay. So in the Army, we did a physical training test assessment, and I'll use that as an example. Then, standing on the starting line of a 2-mile run, thinking about, I have to complete this in 14:36 or whatever it is for those 2 miles in order to get a passing score. We sometimes start right there, defeating ourselves in our mind, right? I'm not going to pass. There's no way I'm going to be able to make it in that time. And there's a couple things that we can do. And I learned this as a master resiliency trainer in the Army as well. It's human performance and positive psychology based, but it works. Simple things like, counteracting those negative thoughts with evidence-based thoughts, like, well, that's not true. The last time I did this, I didn't have any problems, or I might have been close, but I still passed, and I've been training. It's not like I've just sat on the couch for the last year. And so using some evidence to help counteract those negative thoughts, or using some positive reinforcement type thoughts is also a good place. A better way of looking at this is that, well, what's the worst that could happen? If I fail this, what does that mean? So understanding that, not dismissing the grain of truth in there that it could be possible that you're not going to perform the way that you need to, or you're not going to perform as well as you would like to. But the reality is that if you've been training, and if you've never really had a problem, this is test anxiety, and you're going to be okay. Again, maybe not as great as you would like to be, but that's, just a couple ways to counteract those negative thoughts we tell ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that, now I just completely lost my train of thought.
It happens to me all the time.
Gosh dang it. I know it was a good one, but no. So does mindset get easier over time?
I think if you incorporate regular habits, that it absolutely does get easier over time, because you're not shifting your mindset, so to speak. You're shifting the way you approach it. And so here's an interesting tidbit that you've just made me think of, and it's that our thoughts about we have these activating events that cause us to think something. The way we think about that event is what actually causes our emotions and our reactions as a result. So we can change the way we think about things. We can't change what happens to us or around us.
Right.
We can't change that. We can't make everybody stop cutting us off in traffic. But if we get angry about it, our emotions and our reactions reflect that. If we choose instead, the next time someone cuts us off in traffic, to say, you know what, I don't know what that person's got going on in their life. I'm going to allow them that space, and I'm going to be okay with it. Then our emotions and our reactions as a result can change. And that's what I think is important, is that's the piece that we're changing. And you build in daily habits that reinforce positivity and the way we are thinking about things, then overall it's changing our approach, our reactions, and our emotions.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And also just paying attention to our emotions and how we're feeling about it, because a lot of times we shut off, like everything from our neck down, we shut off like how we tense up and get nervous or get upset about things, and just completely ignore kind of even just our intuition and what we're feeling. But it's certainly something that I'm always trying to work on. Being in law enforcement, it's not something I usually tap into,
Well, I imagine, so having a career in the military, having worked with people on a day-to-day basis who are facing stressful situations, I get it. Can I share one more practice that I have found to be extremely helpful?
Yes.
So as a result, when I was learning about the Master Resiliency Program and learning to teach that, one of the things I learned was a man who's commonly referred to, I suppose, as the founder of positive psychology, is Dr. Martin Seligman. And he had this practice of identifying 3 good things. He called it the 3 good things practice. At the end of the day, he suggested identifying 3 good things that happen throughout your day. And doing that for a week or two, they saw in their studies, and I mean, they're available online. You can look them up. They're brief. Some of them are in depth, but doing that for 1 or 2 weeks, you started to see a positive shift in the way people were approaching their day, the way they were approaching the things that they encountered in their life. And from a performance perspective, we're able to improve overall. And so we've adopted that slightly in that program, and it's grown through the years. But, taking note of 3 good things. By the way, good things can come from bad things. It's the lessons learned. If you can look at a situation, so you're in law enforcement, you may encounter a situation that's extremely stressful, didn't go nearly as well as you would have liked or needed it to even. What were the lessons learned from that? Is that a good thing? I would challenge that probably so. And so identifying those good things, and I bring that up because sometimes it's just hard to look and see what really good happened. And then identifying what part did I play in that good thing coming about, so that tomorrow I can work towards potentially bringing more of that good thing about again.
Yeah. And sometimes I would say it's not always apparent what the good thing was.
Mm.
It's really hard to kind of get out of your own way until some time has passed to see what the good thing was. But sometimes, even if you failed, the good thing can be that you took action in the first place,
Yeah.
And that can be huge, just to get out of your own way to take action. Like, who cares if you fail or you fall flat of where you wanted to? At least you did something and you tried.
Absolutely.
I don't know. And actually, that just took me back to fast pitch in high school. And that was kind of my motto, was because we were having a rough year, and then I would get in my head a lot, but I'd be like, okay, you know what? If I just go all out every game, every practice, I can't regret that later. Like 20, 30 years from now, I can't regret, having a bad performance if I just gave it my all. And I think that's huge.
That is huge. And I think you just summed up our entire conversation in that short reminiscing moment. Because if you're in a situation right now, and this is for you, your people, well, not you always open the door to you as well, but people we're talking to, the people that might be hearing it on my side, if you're in a situation where you're not putting in 80%, maybe you're only putting in 50 or 60%, maybe it's 80. If it's less than 100%, giving it your all because your heart, your mind, your soul aren't not into it, think about where you're going to be in 5 years and all that you could have potentially done and all that you potentially missed out on if you just keep doing what you're doing right now.
Yes. Start now, OTBers. That's the big thing. You don't want to have regret later looking back. You might as well just get started right now.
That's it.
So, Dan, let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life they want.
Yeah, so a tip. You did prep me for this, and I used it way too early, but I'm going to go back to simply taking action to move in the direction that you want to go. Identify what that one thing is you can do in the next 24 hours that's just going to start moving you in a direction. It may not be the direction that you want to be in ultimately, but we've got to take small steps and just setting those first steps up so that you're setting yourself up for success and continue to build on that. That's what I would say.
Awesome. How can we connect with you, and how can we find out more about your mastermind?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if it's okay, I'll share a link with you for the mastermind because it's kind of long.
Yeah.
I'll read it off here in a second, but always feel free to send an email to support@progrowthva.com. My assistant and I both monitor that email. And so if you have questions for me, you just want to touch base and find out more about the work I'm doing, then that's one place to do it. My website is progrowthva.com. And my podcast is the Pro Growth Podcast, and that can be found on my website as well. And then the mastermind is offers.progrowthva.com/helping more people better. And there's a dash between each of those words, helping more people better.
Okay.
But again, I'll send a link to you, Marie.
Okay, awesome. And then actually really quickly, will you talk about your podcast?
Yes, I'd love to talk about my podcast. It's a work in progress, but we've seen some tremendous growth recently. And it's really geared towards helping. Most of my conversations lately, I'll just go there, has been around this taking the leap mindset. What are the challenges that people have faced when they started their business? I've talked to people who are currently full-time employed while working on building, something on the side. I've talked to people who have been full-time for quite a few years and have, a level of success that I admire. But the conversations lately have really been around what it looked like for them to take that leap, what finally drew them over the edge, so to speak, and what have been the successes, challenges, failures that have provided the most valuable lessons. And we continue to develop where the conversations are going, but that's the gist of most of the recent conversations. And then a couple examples of people starting. I had my assistant Elizabeth on a recent episode. And so she's talking about a new project she's working on as we work through overcoming mindset challenges and identifying clear action steps to launch and grow a podcast.
Awesome. So OTBers, if you just want to dip your toe in the water or you want to hear more from Dan, definitely check out his podcast, Pro Growth VA. And we'll also link that in the show notes along with his mastermind program. So Dan, thank you so much for being on the show. You've been a total badass and I've enjoyed hearing your journey.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here, Marie, and for a great conversation and allowing me to share with your folks, OTBers.
It was a joy. And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there, staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it. Wasn't this episode amazing? Don't you want to continue the conversation? I know I do. So Wednesday night, 6:30 Pacific time, in the Ordinary to Badass Facebook group, we're going to have a convo. Let's chat about what you thought about this episode and then different things like where you feel boxed in your life or how you deal with negative thoughts. We can all learn from each other, and that's the power of a community. So if you like this episode, if you want to talk about it more, jump on into the Ordinary to Badass Facebook group today, and Wednesday night, we will have a conversation about this episode. And I'll see you there.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass and get the chance to be on a future Spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.